But just a few announcements about events that are coming up. One is we're part of a seminary here in New York City that's called All Faith Seminary. It's for the training of interfaith ministers. I helped to start this back in 1980, 81, and it's now called, well, it was the new seminary, now it's called All Faith Seminary, started by Rabbi Gelberman and myself. And we continue to move along. We have a special track just for people who are interested in A Course in Miracles. And we also have now a master's program for A Course in Miracles students as well. Of course, you have to have a bachelor's degree to do that. Also coming up is something called Miracles in the Mountains. You can go to the website to find about this too. This is the Columbus Day weekend in October. And it's actually going to be through Mundy. I'm going to be doing a special thing on Mundy separately from the rest of the time, but I'm also doing a keynote talk there. What's really interesting about this is it's interesting. My topic is really going to be based on a line from A Course in Miracles which says, universal inspiration is available for all. And there's really, lesson 49 from A Course in Miracles says, God's voice speaks to me all through the day. So, if God's voice is speaking to us all through the day, that means that we all have the potential for being receptive. The problem, of course, is that there's this other mind, which we're going to talk about a little bit more to start with here this afternoon, which is like this static-y thing which gets in the way of our being able to be receptive. And it seems to block out any kind of awareness of God. So we've got to do something to become aware of the presence of God's voice. Meditation is a good thing to do that. The Course in Miracles is a training program in helping us to learn how to not be so distracted by that. Actually, Helen Schuckman, who was the scribe of the Course, who interestingly enough just lived 5 blocks from where we are right now, at one point said that the whole purpose of the Course was to help us to learn how to listen to inner guidance. So at this conference that's coming up in October, there are several speakers who have also been listening and writing down what they hear. And that is going to include Mari Perron, who wrote A Course of Love. It's called Jamie Hammer, who's going to be talking about A Course for Mastery, Way of Mastery, and several others. You can go on our website to check that out as well. So, and then last of all of our announcements is that I've started a class on Tuesday evenings on Zoom. You can also find out about that on the website. We're 3 weeks into the class. I'm really talking all this time about the nature of the ego and the nature of reality, or the ego and the nature of reality, how it is that the ego creates another reality, which we call reality, which strangely enough is very much not a reality at all. It's a part of a fantasy, but we have to awaken to the reality that that's a fantasy. Did that make sense? Yeah, I'm sure it did, actually, if you show to think about it. Actually, I read an editorial this morning on the internet about the Epstein case that just happened, where he this last few days ago hung himself. And the guy used, "We are living in a paranoid fantasy universe." And I thought, the author of this article, well, that would be one way to talk about it. It is a paranoid, kind of schizophrenic universe that we're living in. It's schizophrenic because it's a divided world. It's a divided mind. And minds tend to go in 2 directions. And one of those is not a very happy direction. So I think that's all of our announcements. Let's get into our topic for this morning. But before we get into patience, there is something else I'd like to talk about a little bit first. And, oops, it would help if I turn this on. Okay, there we go. Helen Keller, right? So Helen Keller says, what I'm looking for is not out there. It's in me. So I'd like to do a meditation at the end of our time today. Let's remember to stop about 5-10 minutes early so I can do a meditation. It's lesson 199. And lesson 199 from the Course is, I am not a body, I am free. So you all know that that's like a basic theme in the Course. And the Course also says that the body is the ego's chosen home. So we're very caught up in this ego body thing in this world, thinking somehow or another that this is who we are, right? And it's really hard for us not to think that, because when you stand in front of a mirror, it looks like this is a definite, or we wake up, we get hungry, we have physical ailments and difficulties, we get sick, etc. It looks very much like this is who we are, and yet the Course is very clear. And here's a very, very important difference. I love it. There's this very short little sentence in the Course: not for a single instant does the body exist at all. Period. Not for a single instant does it exist. I mean, it's out, brief candle, and it just, even 90 years is nothing. And then the whole thing is gone. And then where are you? And then we do have, it is a dream in that sense. It looks very real. So, but let's go back to Helen Keller. What I'm looking for is not out there. So this Epstein thing, which happened just a few days ago with his hanging himself, apparently, and the Course is never about judging anyone, so we're not engaged in judging. It's just about looking at making the outside real. Wealth, power, money, sex, those are the kinds of things, among others, that seem to attract us on the ego level. That's where the ego is going to be making its investments. It's making its investments in the physical world. So the Course is saying that the physical world is not the reality. The reality is the mental world, or another word we could use rather than mental would be spiritual. So spiritual and mental are really kind of the same thing in terms of the Course. The problem here is, and it's not really a problem, but what we need to look at, is the ego has also got a hold on the mental. Okay? So the mental is both spiritual and in the realms of the ego as well. But the body, which the ego thinks of it as its primary source of identity, has no reality. As I've said in the past, there will be no John Mundy in heaven. And that goes for all of us, because it has nothing to do with body, personality, time, history, story. That's all a part of a dream. And we can be glad that it's part of a dream, actually. We can be glad that what's going to happen for all of us is that as we journey through this world, and the Course is really clear that we're all here to learn a lesson. This is a school, reformatory, whatever you want to, mental hospital. We're here, we're here to wake up, actually. And we're going through different classes. Let's think, here's a class called divorce. Here's a class called cancer. Here's a class called bankruptcy. Whatever the classes are. We go through all these classes. And it's like, I chose this? The Course says that, we choose these lessons that we learn. And sometimes they're really kind of tough lessons, but then you do wake up. There is a time when we learn what's valuable and what's not valuable. A lot of what the Course is about learning how to distinguish what is valuable from what is not valuable, which is another way of saying what is real or from what is not real, right? So let's do a couple of more slides now. So, oh gosh. Oh, there it is. So the real purpose of this world, no? Did I do 2 slides? Yeah. Okay. The real purpose of this world is to use it to correct your unbelief. So just think, let's take this at that end very slowly. The purpose of the world is to correct your unbelief in attitude. Note, I made attitude in caps. Then, though not in content, you resemble your Creator, God, who has perfect faith in His creations because He created them. So it's because He created you that you will awaken to the reality of the truth of who you really are and who you really are. Just in case you didn't already know, you're a part of God. You're a part of the mind of God. There's a point in the Course where it says you're an idea in the mind of God. This is not what we would think of as a physical thing. It would be very hard to try to even think about what it is because it's spirit, right? We understand form very well. We understand the external. We understand the outside. But as Helen Keller says, what I'm looking for is not out there. That's where we get really confused. We get confused in projecting the problem as though there's a problem that's outside. And we see that in terms of now some of the stuff that's going on with white supremacy and segregations and the whole idea that someone's skin color would be important. That's something that's on the outside. That's not something that's on the inside, right? So we get blinded by by the world. It's very easy to be blinded by the world, and then what's really important is understanding that we project that. It's not that you make somebody else up, but you make up your attitude. You have your attitude about the other, right? And it's the attitude really that we're looking to change. We're looking to change our mind so that we can see better. Seeing better means being able to see in alignment with the mind of God. I don't know whether you can tell it or not on this slide, but in that eye there's a world, right? So it's how we see the world, okay? So how do you know you're learning the Course? There should be in you a growing awareness and a more loving attitude toward everything. So what's happening is that rather than hating the world, rather than condemning the world, rather than finding problems with the world, you're going exactly the other way. We're learning how to love the world all the more. So stop the projection, stop finding, if nothing else, just stop finding fault with the world. We're letting the world be what it is, and then seeing if we can love it despite whatever it is that's going on. Along with less and less anger, there should be less and less anger, less and less attack. And actually, you want to get down, there's no attack. You're not attacking anything for any reason. You're not projecting anything onto it. If you don't like what you're getting, take a look at what you're giving. That's a very, very important point in the Course. Actually, in the class that we're doing on Tuesday evenings on Zoom, one of the things I'm going to be talking about, I think next week, not this coming week, is about the Course saying that what goes around comes around. Whatever we give is what we receive. It's so important to understand that. Because if you don't understand that, then you're going to, and you attack the world, guess what happens? If you love the world, guess what happens? What comes back, right? This is a basic karmic law of the universe, right? All right, so let's review just briefly these 10 characteristics which we've been looking at. I think I started this in the late spring, right? All summer long. So the first is trust. And that's just as we're trusting, what we're trusting is God. We're trusting that there really is a God. who really is in charge. And there's a basic law of the universe. This is, as I just said, the most basic law of the universe is the law of cause and effect. What goes around comes around. That's what the Course says. So we want to get our minds in line with the mind of God so that what comes back our way is nothing but blessing. We want to get to the point that Jesus got to. And the point that Jesus gets to is I and the Father are one. Now that's really an incredible, if you could say that, you'd be done. You'd have it, you'd be completed, right? Well, that's where we're going. And the good news, the main thing is just knowing that your foot's on the path, you are moving in the right direction, you are not caught in some sort of regression where you are constantly finding problems with the world. So then honesty. Honesty goes hand in hand with trust. It's easier to be honest with those that we trust, right? And the big one is being honest to God, literally, right? So we're not hiding. We're not projecting problems, and at the same time, we're also not burying our problems. This is one, we had a session some months ago about looking at the shadow. That's a really important concept in the Course. We have to look, rather than seeing the problem out there, we want to look inside and seeing, how is it that this problem is in me? Because again, whatever I'm projecting, that can only come from me. Am I loving this world again, or am I saying that there's something wrong with you because you have a different color of skin than I do, or a different belief system than I do? Eric, did you want to say something? You got to have the mic, you know that. And you got to wait till you get it. All right. Okay.
I was just going to add that in the projections, for me, a lot of it is that my own, if someone's not treating me right, it's not like I project. I have to think I'm projecting that something that it's me that's not. I've already. You know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do know what you're saying is that you're analyzing what the person is saying.
No, I'm saying that.
Or no?
No, I think what I'm trying to say is it's a self-worth issue. It's
okay.
How much
okay.
How much self have I thoroughly learned to love myself.
Oh, okay, very good. I understand.
And be at peace with because
sure.
then someone could say, hey, you're so and so and so and so. Well, I have compassion for you for feeling those negative feelings, but I know I'm not that. But
exactly.
If I'm not like that, if I haven't gotten there yet, which I haven't completely done, I sometimes take it in, and think, oh man, I really, really want to strike back, or say, why did you say that to me? How could you do that? Well, I was just sitting here,
See, only an ego could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the point is that when that happens, then you stop in your mind and you look at it. You look at what's going on, and you, rather than getting attached to it, we let it go. That's what forgiveness is. Actually, we get to the point where we don't even have to forgive. Because forgiveness isn't really necessary. It's only necessary if I think that something has happened that has hurt me. And therefore I have to forgive what the hurt is. But if there's no hurt, nothing happened. You can't hurt me, in other words, right?
Yeah.
Right, that's where you want to get to. There's nothing that could be said.
Right.
All manner of evil can be said against you falsely, and it doesn't make any difference at all, right? Because you know the truth. Okay, good. Okay, so going along with that, that's right in keeping with what we're talking about now, tolerance. Do you notice, by the way, I think I pointed this out last time, but let me just point out one more time, that all of these are the same even though they're different? I mean, isn't tolerance the same thing as gentleness? Isn't gentleness the same thing as patience? Isn't patience the same thing as open-mindedness and faithfulness? And you see that there's actually an order to them. And of course, there's a reason why we start with trust, and there's a reason why we end with open-mindedness. When we get to open-mindedness during the second session today, the opening line there is open-mindedness perhaps the last characteristic a teacher of God develops. It's the last character because this means total open-mindedness, 100% open-mindedness. So there's no projection and there's no blame on anyone about anything, right? We may look at certain things that are going on and realize that they're lessons, but we don't condemn the fact that we've got this lesson to learn. So gentleness is the same. Ken Wapnick, on more than one occasion, was asked if you could just put the Course in a word, what would the word be? And he said, kindness. Well, kindness and gentleness are pretty much the same. In fact, the word gentleness very rarely appears in the Course, but kindness does, right? So, but it's the same thing. And then joy has kind of been a consequence. When we were riding into I picked up Shanti today on the way down, and Shanti's looking out the window of the car at the beautiful white clouds that are going on, and just so excited and joyful. Oh, look at that! Isn't that beautiful to see this? Yeah, it's wonderful. It's joyful. It's a great day out there, and that's what I want to be seeing, regardless. And then defenselessness. Defenselessness just means that there's nothing I become defensive about. Again, that's the fact that you can't attack me. You might may do it physically, in which case I would want to defend my body because I think I am a body, but you can't attack my ego because there is no ego to attack. When there's no ego to attack, if you feel that you are attacked, then you got to look at that. Generosity goes along with this, right? It's just a natural characteristic that you want to help. You want to be kind. You want to be gentle. You want to extend yourself. It's when Shanti came in today, how can I help? How can I help? Let me put these things on the chairs. I've noticed that about characteristic of Shanti for all these many years. If there's dishes to do, she wants to do them. And then patience, we're going to do patience, faithfulness, and open-mindedness this afternoon. So let's go on. So happiness is dependent on our ability to develop each of these qualities. You could think of them qualities, you could think of characteristics, they're attributes. These are all kind of synonyms for describing the same thing. So the more trusting we are, the more honest, gentle, joyful, generous, patient, open-minded, the more we're going to enjoy the whole of life ourselves. The Course should really be a joyful experience for you. So healing, what are we healing? We're healing the mind. Thus becomes a lesson in understanding, and the more you practice it, the better teacher and learner you become. Now, this is a very important point. And Helen said this many, many times. When it comes to the Course in Miracles, it's practice, practice, practice. And it's practice, practice, practice because we've been very poorly taught. So it takes a lot to unlearn the insane machinations of the mind. You have to, folks who try to quit smoking have to quit, well, maybe a lot of times before they actually quit, right? But the fact that you're making an effort to correct this behavior means that eventually, someday, I once read that the more times you quit, the greater you increase the chance that one day you actually will. And the same thing would be any kind of addiction, alcohol or anything else. The more times you actually succeed, especially if you can extend that time, it'll get better and better and better. Then the day comes when you just forget to be pulled back into it again. You don't have that attraction toward the guilt. It is guilt. Whether we were attracted to any kind of addiction is a form of knowing that we're off course, right? But thinking that you can't do anything about it. So miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. I have a relatively new friend. By relatively new, I mean I just met him in June, or was it July? I guess it was July, when I was in doing talks up in Chicago and Milwaukee, came to a talk in Milwaukee. And we've been doing a lot of back and forth on the phone and emails. And I love the way he signs off. He's been practicing the way of mastery, by the way. And this is a part of his practice. And he signs off with loving the hell out of everything. And he says, you can have that if you want. I think I'm going to use it. Isn't that good? What you're doing, you're loving the hell out of everything. If you're loving the hell out of everything, then there's no hell left if you keep it up, right? It's just love. So it's loving the hell out of ourselves. By that I mean we see the points of pain inside ourselves, and then we learn how to heal that point of pain. And that changes everything. Now, let's start patience. So, this is the opening, this is the part on patience in the Course. Those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait, and wait without anxiety. Let's remember, and this is very important, who wins in the end. God always wins. Things always come back to God again, right? Eventually, the awakening occurs. It looks like things get very difficult in the world. They get very murky, and we don't understand that there's a way through or there are ways out. But this is a part of, see, patience and faithfulness here kind of go together, and trust. We're trusting that God does have a solution. It's just a matter of realigning our minds with that solution that's going to help to wake us up. Patience is natural to a teacher of God. So you shouldn't, I mean, it's just natural. You're stuck on a line. You know, you're waiting, you go to the bank, and there's a long line, and you got to stand in the line for a long time. And there's two ways to do it. I mean, you can either do it patiently, or you can get upset about it. I often say it's a really good time. I used to say that it's a really good time to meditate. What I mean by used to say it is that I've noticed now that rather than meditating, people are doing this. Here was a chance to meditate. Well, put that in your pocket and just let the eyes come down, and you pay attention to what's going on with this line that I'm in, but you will get there. There's nothing that you have to do. Or stuck in traffic is another good example of that, right? This line isn't going to move for a while, so I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to be patient with the fact. I've noticed, by the way, that the more you can do that, it seems to me, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems to me that when you get really patient, the line moves. Just about the point at which, okay, nothing's going to happen. It moves. All he sees a certain outcome, at a time perhaps unknown and yet, but not in doubt. The time will be as right as the answer. And this is true for everything. Sometimes we think it takes a lot of time, or when is this going to happen, or how long is this going to take? Well, you'd be surprised at how quickly it is happening. How many, you look back at what was going on 5 years ago or 10 years, you think that was never going to happen, and then all of a sudden it's like, wow, that happened. It's like you're going to get this house, but now I've been living in this house for 10 years, and it happened. And, somewhere along the way, why was I impatient about this? So, the past as well held no mistakes. Now that's a very interesting line, right? Actually, I'd like to have a little discussion on this one. Anybody want to offer a thought or a theory as to why the past as well held no mistakes? Lynn, you want to give the mic to Lynn?
Well, suppose we came here to learn something, and I always quote Khalil Gibran, the prophet, the deeper sorrow carves in you, the more joy you could contain.
Mhm.
So
Good.
I'm living proof of that.
Right. Actually, we all are.
Yeah. Well, all here,
Right.
And I'm grateful for everything that happened because it got me here.
Exactly.
And I was suicidal when I was younger.
Right.
And I'm glad I stuck it out.
You're glad that's in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, the suicidal, that's right. Anytime we're going through something and you're thinking, why do I have to go through this? And then you get through it, and then later you look back and, oh, now I understand exactly why I had to go through that. I had to go through that experience because if I hadn't gone through that experience, I wouldn't have learned this particular lesson. I might not have learned patience in the way that I need to learn patience, right? Nothing that did not serve to benefit the world as well as him to whom it seemed to happen. Perhaps it was not understood at the time. Even so, the teacher of God is willing to reconsider all his past decisions if they are causing pain to anyone, and then seek to change that in the present. Right? Patience is natural to those who trust. We're going back to trust again. Sure, the ultimate interpretation of all things in time. In time, there is a solution. No outcome already seen or yet to come can cause them fear. So this is one of my favorite lines from A Course in Miracles, and many of you may know this one from just those first three words, right? Only infinite patience. Only infinite patience produces immediate effects. So if you can be infinitely patient at any one moment, you're there. Of course, you have to be infinitely patient. But that's like meditation. But then it's like you get into a meditative place or state. This is in which the way in which time is exchanged for eternity. I'm sure that some of you are meditators. And one of the things you may have noticed about meditation, I've noticed the more that I meditate, the less distracted the mind is. By that I mean, it takes practice. You got to practice. In the beginning stages of meditating, you may find that there's a lot of monkey mind jumping around and lots of thoughts that are going on. But then after a while, it gets to the point where it gets so easy, and 20 minutes go by, and I thought that was 5 minutes. Right? I mean, it just happens. And it was nothing at all because you learn how to relax into it and to be patient with the experience. And this is a part of the mind training as well. This is why I like to say that Zen and the Course are so incredibly similar, because they're both headed in the same. The goal is inner peace. The goal is a quiet mind. The goal is that I don't have a distracted mind. There's nothing pulling me away from just this peace of mind. Where's the mic? You want to hand it back to Eric again? See me and hand it back? Okay.
Lynn sent me this video of Marianne talking to what's his name? What's his name?
Trevor Noah?
I saw that one, but what's the other one? The white-haired guy?
Oh, Anderson Cooper.
Yeah, Anderson Cooper. And he seemed like both of these guys, both Anderson Cooper and Trevor Noah, seemed like to say, wow, you really, it was like, kind of blew my mind a little. They were saying like, you really, well, he's saying, Anderson Cooper saying, did you see this, by the way?
No, I didn't see it.
He said, I'm going through grieving right now, but you seem to live in this place all the time.
Ah.
Like, you know, how grieving, like birth and death, they sort of take you into this other realm, you know? It's a holy place. and they were like very unfamiliar. And
Right.
it seemed to me, at least, maybe it's my own overlay, but I thought Anderson Cooper kind of was transported, in a way, fell in love with her a little bit from that energy that he picked up. Of course, she's very pretty, but it was also this place where just her beingness, and he's,
Yeah.
wow, and then he went to fix her microphone. It's like it was a very unprofessional moment, where he was like reaching forward, doing something I didn't think he should be doing, or it didn't look TV-like.
Right.
And it's like, holy shit, it's like he caught himself in the middle of it. It's like he was going to fix her earring or something, It's like this intimate moment. It was very amazing, but that both of them really like, well, you're another kind of animal or something. And yet here we are, it's like you're saying, like, about meditation. It's like we live in this place, like, almost more and more as we go along, almost
Right.
all the time, some of us, And anyway,
Sure.
that's all I was going to say.
So it'd be nice to have a meditator in the White House, wouldn't
Yeah.
it?
If you could
Sean?
go back to the slide that we were talking about,
This one?
yeah. What occurred to me is that idea of infinite patience. So what I have is finite patience because it is, I have to practice patience on one thing at a time. Like if I'm in traffic, okay, I have to practice patience about being stuck in this line, or and what you had said earlier about at some point there's nothing to forgive because it's a constant state of being. So infinite patience
It's like that.
is the point where you don't need patience.
Right.
And that that goes back to the idea of eternity, because it erases time, because I only need patience in time
Right.
when I'm resistant
Very
to
good.
it.
Yeah.
So I love the idea that the Course talks about how the Course collapses time.
Right.
And this is, for me, when you put that up, I was like, there's something that's talking about time here and collapsing time. If I could just have that infinite patience. And part of the Course is practicing it one thing at a time.
Right.
I mean, that's where probably most of us, I know I am. So that's a powerful slide.
It is, yeah. It's a powerful sentence. I think the whole life journey process, it's something which happens in time. So it's a story. And I have the feeling that maybe that once we've all completed the story, that we can kind of look back at the story and go, well, that was interesting. I wonder why I needed that story. Because now I don't need that story. You see, now I especially don't need drama. Right? I especially don't need tragedy in my life. Right? I get lifted out of that. Right? Lynn, do you have that because you want to say something?
Yes, I want to say thank you, Marianne. We love you. We love you. God bless you.
Yeah, I thought we might talk about that today, but I'm very happy to support Marianne and have been doing so from the get-go. And if she doesn't make it all the way, she's at least getting her ideas out there, and that's having a very, very positive effect.
And she has that strength. You could tell she
Oh
has
boy,
that
does she have strength. Oh yeah, there's no doubt about the strength.
It's my girl.
Yeah, very, very, very clear. All right, so let's go on up to this one. So this cartoon says, why isn't my car horn magically fixing everything? there's a story I heard about a guy who's at a stoplight and he gets ready to go. His car stalls and he can't go. And the guy behind him starts honking and honking and honking the horn. And so he finally just can't start it. He gets out of the car and he goes back to the guy and he says, "Look, I can't get my car started. Could you do me a favor? Would you go up there and try to start my car, and I'll sit here and honk your horn." You know, I think if you're ever at a stoplight and the car ahead of you doesn't go, what I like to do is to practice. I'm going to wait a little while and we'll give it a few seconds. I'm not going to instantly honk. But maybe they're really not paying attention. And after 15 seconds, if they're not really, then we'll do a little beep, just to encourage them to look up. I once got into a taxi cab here in New York City to go do a wedding, and I noticed that the taxi cab driver literally kept his hand like this on the horn, and every time we got to a stoplight, he would have his eyes fixed on the light, and the very second that light would go, "Oh!" And I wanted to ask him if you've ever heard of Pavlov. Okay, so those who are certain of outcome can afford to wait without anxiety. Okay? Afford to wait without anxiety. So, mastery of the course, therefore, comes with consistent, patient application and study. And it's like, really hang in there with it, folks, because it does take a lot, because this is a wholly new way of thinking. And that's why I think it's a really good idea that once you've done the workbook lessons, you do it again and again and again, and you make it a part of your daily practice, that you don't even do anything else until you've looked at that lesson for the day, right? Because there's so much there, let it sink in. So this is from Helen Keller again. Face your deficiencies and acknowledge them, but do not let them master you. Let each teach you patience, sweetness, insight. Your deficiency, acknowledge them, don't let them master you. Teach you patience, sweetness, insight. So remarkable about Helen Keller, of course, is that in terms of the way we started talking about things today, there was no outside. There was nothing to see and there was nothing to hear. She had no choice but to go inside. And as she said in one of the quotes I love from Helen Keller, she said, "I thank God for my handicaps, because through them I found myself, my work, and my God." My God. This is the way she found it, right? So this is Martin Luther, who says, "Tribulation does not make people impatient, it proves they are impatient." I don't know whether you know much about Martin Luther. Of course, you probably know that he was the stimulus which got the Protestant Reformation started. It actually happened one day. There's very few things that we can attribute to happening on one day. Now, after saying that, let me go back and say there were a lot of people before him who started to try to reform things, and they all failed. They all failed, I mean, most of them got burned at the stake by the Catholic Church whenever they would try to make major changes. He succeeded where the others had failed, because by that time, all of the other Europe at the time, Germany was actually broken up into little kingdoms rather than just it was a state, but it was more like city-states kind of things that were going on. and they were in the northern city-state. They were very far from Rome. And one of his job was to collect money, indulgence money, and to take it to Rome. Once he got to Rome, he saw all the opulence and all the incredible way that the money was being used. It wasn't going to help the poor, which is what he thought it was going for. It was going to build St. Peter's Cathedral, and that really changed his mind about everything. He was a scholar, he was a teacher, and the date when everything happened was October 31st, Halloween, 1517. That's the day he nailed the 95 Theses. What the 95 Theses were questions. He says, let's discuss these questions. That was the computer system of the day. Attached it to the church door in Wittenberg. Other people saw it, and what really got it started was a printer who took these, and the printing press had just been invented in 1445, so it hadn't, like 60 years, 70 years prior to that, it was just beginning to work, and it became the number one. It was the first bestseller, the 95 Theses of Martin Luther. And that changed. Once the average person could have it in their hands, when the man on the street, so to speak, could have it, it's in German, it's not in Latin, and they can read it, that changed everything. All right. And technology, I think, is going to be an important part of the change that's going on right now as well. By that I mean in terms of the churches are dying, and the question becomes one of what's going to replace the church. Well, there's something Pierre de Chardin, the French Jesuit priest, I did my master's thesis on many years ago, talked about something he called the worldwide psychic web and the internet. He died in 1955. Couldn't have known where we would be today, that we would actually create such a thing. Okay. Now this is a very important one on patience from the Course. Your patience with your brother is your patience with yourself. Is not a child of God worth patience? I have shown you infinite patience. So God is really literally infinitely patient with us. Jesus is infinitely patient. You're not upset, you're not worried. They're not saying, why don't you learn your lesson already? Come on, get with it. In good part because they know that eventually you will. You're going to get this. It's just going to take time. The question is, how much do you want to suffer between now and the point of realization of what the truth is, right? So God is infinitely patient. He knows you're going to get there. He knows the goal will be achieved. Actually, if you understand the depth of the metaphysics of the Course in Miracles, it's done. It's already completed. It's already happened. So this again is why we're kind of experiencing like a backlash of what we're seeing the past in the present. Right? It looks like that. Right? That's heavy metaphysics, but it's the way it works. I have shown you infinite patience because my will is that of our Father. So this is Jesus speaking. From whom I learned of infinite patience. There's infinite patience again. His voice within me as it is in you. Now that's a very important point. We said that God's voice speaks to me all through the day. Speaking for patience toward the sonship in the name of the Creator. It's actually there inside each of us already. We just have to look at what it is that's distractions that would pull our minds away. What would pull my mind away? Why do I get distracted by the news? Do I get upset by the news? Do I become obsessed with watching the news? Whatever it is, it keeps pulling me off. What pulls me off course? Is there some sort of an addiction that pulls me off course? Some behavior, some attitude? Okay. So this is Rainer Rilke, who says, complaining is nothing. By the way, notice how much time is spent complaining? If nothing else, the Course says stop complaining. Just stop it. Just stop it. Stop the complaining. Stop seeing problem. Fame is nothing. Fame is nothing, because really fame is nothing. Because fame is a thing of very short-lived. And it doesn't really mean that much. In fact, you probably wouldn't want to be famous, because then you're got to hold that ball up in the air and you be some. It's much better to be anonymous in a way. Oneness, patience, receptivity, solitude is everything. You want to be able to have solitude. You want to be able to sit. You want to be able to be quiet. You want to be able to be in the one mind under any set of circumstances. Right? Don't turn on the TV. All right. So, this is in a similar vein. According to a psychological study, one of the characteristics of happy people is their ability to patiently focus and to stay on the task at hand. Happy people, according to this study, live in the moment. They're not distracted. They're not pulled off course. Not dwelling in the past, not worrying about the future. Being focused enables them actually to be able to kind of get into the flow. I read a similar quote. I'll get to that in just a second. A similar quote about actually in your work or in whatever you're doing, the focus works better when you're enjoying it, when you're enjoying what you're doing, right? If you're enjoying what you're doing, then the time goes by and you don't even notice it. I bet Eric is nodding his head back there, so I'm going to speak for you. As an artist is someone who can get into the art, into sometimes when I create these slides, I had one night this past week when I did 3 hours of working on these slides, and it was like, oh, that was fun, and that went quickly, and that wasn't a work, that was just playing, but it's play that we get to share. I get to share it with you guys. And that's what makes it even more fun, right? So the same with being an artist. When you're creating something, or a musician. You're creating something which then is shared. And the sharing it is what the fun part is. Right? So from the Course, to be in the kingdom is merely to focus your full attention on it. So I'm equating focus and patience here, right? And then this line from John Lennon, living is easy with eyes closed. That is when you're not paying attention, right? When you're allowing for the world to take your distraction to you. So the ego has no power to distract you unless you give it the power to do so. That's a very important point. I want to repeat it. The ego has no power to distract you unless who is running this show? Your show. Who's in charge of this mind? We've talked about this several times, who is Charlie the chooser? Right? Who's the decider? I am very slowly, and unfortunately very slowly, working a book on the power of decision. It's taking a long time. There's so many distractions. Like work. But you give it that power. We give it that power. The ego's voice is a hallucination. That's a very important point. There really is, again, no such thing as an ego. Let's go back to the beginning of today, actually. There's a split mind, there's the two minds, but only one of these minds is real. That's the important. Only the mind which is in line with the mind of God is everlasting. This other mind, which we think that we are, which again is associated with the body, that will disappear. Just like we will all disappear. Now that's a very scary thought to the ego, but it's not scary at all to spirit. In fact, that's rather wonderful to spirit, because that means that we get to wake up. Linda was asking me before we started today, she was saying, what, this ongoing question, what does happen when we expire? When we breathe that last breath, and the body is gone, but the mind is not gone, right? Where am I then? What takes over? Is the ego still running the show? If it is, then, well, I had a death experience in 1976, and without going into any details about that, sometimes I feel like maybe I'll talk about that in detail. I don't know whether I will or not. But it was hell. It was hell because the ego didn't want to die. Okay? It was a fight. It was a fight. It was a fight. And I lost, thank God, because eventually you lose. And then you don't have any choice. Then it comes out, you roll over and you come out this whole other way. And John Mundy was gone, but there was still something that was very, very conscious and very present and very, very there, which was wonderful. I won't say anything more about it at this point. Someday I think maybe I'll detail that. Okay. So the ego's voice is hallucination. You cannot expect it to say, I'm not real. Because the whole idea is that it thinks it is real, right? Yet you are not asked to dispel your hallucination alone. That's a very important point. Because it's really done together. It's done in cooperation with the Holy Spirit, right? You are merely asked to evaluate them in terms of their results to you. If you do not want them on the basis of loss of peace, they will be removed from your mind for you. I don't want this insanity. Enough of insanity. When you have enough of insanity, you get a chance to wake up. It's like you're waking up from a nightmare. And be glad that you're waking up from a nightmare. Who wants to live in hell? So, this is This is Helen. And that's just a picture of a little bit of her notes. So Helen took the entire course down on steno notepads. A lot of steno notepads that she would carry with her. And by carrying with her, I mean have it in her purse, so she could just pull it out at any time. Any time that she's starting to get inspiration, quite literally, she'd pull it out and begin writing. I think I mentioned to you once before, a lot of the course got written in the back of taxi cabs, going back and forth between East 17th Street, where she lived, and West 168th Street, where she worked. It's a long drive, and she didn't take subways. She took taxi cabs. She could afford it. And so anyhow, she says, Jesus said to Helen at one point, and this is not in the Course in Miracles, right? It is in the complete annotated edition of the Course, which Robert Perry has put together recently. Jesus says to Helen, the lessons deteriorate under a lack of focus. So that's what I meant about patience, about practice, about it does take focus. You do have to you have to stay with it, and the more you stay with it, the more it will reveal itself to you in the sense of, I read a passage last night that brought on this incredible aha, and why didn't I see that before? And this is something I want to talk about in much more detail. That's why you never run out of stuff to talk about in the Course, because you keep seeing these other new, and I guess that will continue to happen until we're enlightened, right? Till all the pieces are back together again. But the good news is the pieces, even to have the sense of the pieces coming back together, and even though they're not all collected into one unified, clear frame, they are at least coming back. So there is less insanity, there are less distractions, there's less pulling you away from the straight path, the narrow gate, which leads home. So the word jihad, this is from, I hope I can pronounce this name, Mawald Khan. I'll skip the middle one. Could you do a better job on that than I can, Seema? Molana. Malana. Okay. How about the middle name? Wahiduddin Khan. Right. Thank you. So the word jihad has nowhere been used in the Quran to mean war. It means struggle. The action most consistently called for in the Quran is the exercise of patience. Isn't that interesting? Right? And he's a scholar. He translated the Quran into English, and his job is to continue to offer commentary on it. By the way, notice how old he is. What year were you born, Shanti?
27.
27, right? He's 2 years older than you. Right? Now, I think it is. We usually stop at about 2:45. That's what I have to share on patience. The next topic is faithfulness. Anybody got questions about or observations about patience? Okay, then let's take our break and we'll come back and talk about faithfulness.